Well, in fact, tuning into today's video, we're going to have a look at weather for the next week to 10 days. Today, it looks like we're going to be seeing some colder weather coming along next week, but there's quite a lot of uncertainty about this possibility of colder weather next week. The models are not in agreement in the exact detail. So some sort of pattern change looks like it's trying to take place next week, but quite what's going to happen, still a lot of uncertainty about it. Anyway, we'll run through the charts in a moment. Before I get on with that, just talk about the advertising. There's video ads on my page at GavsWebBiz.com. If you hit play on the video ad, you'll be supporting GavsWebBiz.com. Thanks very much for doing that. I also want to say that Gav Shop is open business, so if you want to go to Amazon do any Christmas shopping between now and Christmas, just click through the Amazon banners in Gav Shop and you'll go through to Amazon, do your Christmas shopping as normal, and GavsWebBiz.com will get a royalty fee on anything you purchase, and thanks very much for doing that. So I'm going to start off with the Arctic Oscillation observed and forecast charts, just very quickly to say that the Arctic Oscillation is an index that is reflecting the state of the atmosphere over the North Pole. It isn't driving anything. It's an index that sort of reflects the weather rather than being a driver. A lot of people talk about the Arctic Oscillation as though it is driving something. It isn't. It merely reflects the state of the atmosphere over the pole. Now, when the Arctic Oscillation is very, very positive, it means that we've got low pressure up over the pole. We're keeping the cold air locked in to the polar regions, and the mid-latitudes are normally, in winter anyway, quite mild with zonal westerly flows going around the northern hemisphere through the mid-latitudes. When the Arctic Oscillation is negative, it means that we've got lots of blocking areas of high pressure up over the pole. So it's warmer in the pole, but it pushes the cold air, pushes the cold air out into the mid-latitudes. And when the Arctic Oscillation is negative, that's usually when we've got our coldest weather going on, not just in the British Isles, not just in British Isles and Europe, but also for Northern America and for Asia as well. So the Arctic Oscillation has been, through most of November, very, very positive. It went positive around the middle of October. There's a black line there showing where we've been. And yeah, we've had a really positive Arctic Oscillation recently. So that's why it's been so unsettled through October into November. We've had lots of heavy rain, of course, bringing weather systems through with strong zonal westerly winds. That's about as positive, I think, as it's possible to get the Arctic Oscillation, to be honest. So the cold air has tended to be locked up over the polar region. Now the red line here, or the red lines, are showing that we're going to keep the Arctic Oscillation very positive for a few more days, but around the middle of November we're going to start to see those red lines dipping down. Now, to go negative, the Arctic Oscillation has got to go through this middle line here that's running through the middle of the chart. There's no evidence really that the Arctic Oscillation is going negative over the next few weeks, or the next couple of weeks anyway. So whilst we do dip the Arctic Oscillation down, which means we'll lose a lot of the low pressure over the pole, we'll probably try and build some sort of high pressure up. We're not really seeing evidence for big blocking features appearing just yet. So that's why I've got the uncertainty within the models, I think, because there is a change going on over the pole, but it's not a dramatic change to huge blocking features just yet. It just is a change for the low pressure to be easing a little bit over the pole and allowing some colder air to start to infiltrate down into the mid-latitudes. But as I say, no real evidence at this stage for very big blocking features to really turn the Arctic Oscillation into the negative and very negative territories. Nevertheless, it is going to be turning a bit cold, I think, over the coming few days. These are the GFS temperature ensembles. Remember, the red line is where we should be. All members of the ensemble are above average right now, but it's cooling down. It's going to be cooling down through the rest of today. It's very mild, just a very warm day for November, but we're going to be seeing those temperatures dropping down towards average. And then actually, later on this week, we're going to go a little bit under the average. Over the weekend, we're going to pick up a bit, go a bit above average, and then next week, yeah, the evidence is that we're going to go quite calm. Remember, the red lines where it should be many members of the ensemble going underneath the red line next week. And it's going to get quite cold, or it could get quite cold. Some of these members of the ensemble are going to -5 at 850 millibars, even underneath -5. That's proper cold, wintry air. So a lot of the members do dip down to -5 and lower, at least for a time next week, before maybe staging a bit of a recovery as we go through to around the 24th or 25th. Also notice, whilst we do have some precipitation spikes coming up for the next couple of weeks, nowhere near as many as we have had over the past few weeks, so it is going to be a drier period coming up, albeit somewhat colder. The temperature anomalies for the next week, the 12th to the 19th of November, showing that we're going a little bit below average. Actually, Scotland's still just about holding up at around the average, but much of England and Wales going slightly below average, and most of Central Western Europe actually going colder than average as well. That's that's quite a big change on what we've been seeing in recent weeks, where virtually the whole of the continent has been at many, many degrees above average. So here's the GFS chart for Saturday the 16th of November, and that's when we're bringing in some slightly warmer air. We're under a ridge of high pressure, so probably won't notice it's about warmer air. It's going to be up in the upper atmosphere, I think down on the surface. We're going to have quite a lot of fog underneath this high pressure, maybe some low cloud as well, so pretty chilly, really whatever's going on in the upper atmosphere. But as we go through to Sunday the 17th, we start to bring a cold front down from the northwest, and that cold front will introduce somewhat colder air. There it is, sinking down across the country as we go into Monday the 18th. Notice the ice bars to the north, pulling back in towards the North Pole, up towards Greenland and Iceland. That's really cold air trying to push in. Now, whether that cold air gets down across the country, it's really dependent on how much we get this ridge of high pressure in the Atlantic going north. We've really got to amplify this ridge up in the Atlantic, get it up towards Greenland, and if we do that, we'll start to push down the colder air. But remember, there's no real evidence for a proper block to set up over Greenland, so it's going to be harder than it would be if we had a proper block, turning the Arctic Oscillation negative, to get that colder air to go down. So let's see what the latest GFS model does. This was 6 o'clock run. Well, yeah, it does bring some very cold air down towards Scotland and Northern Ireland, but it's about this area of low pressure around England and Wales that just holds things up. Have amplified the ridge a little bit, but we're not getting it up towards Greenland. We've got westerly winds actually around the top of the high pressure between the mid-Atlantic and Greenland. Nevertheless, as we go through to Wednesday the 20th, we are bringing in much colder air then around this ridge of high pressure across the country. The low pressure is sinking off and becoming cut off over Spain and Portugal. Very, very complicated pattern, this. But there's the minus isotherm covering the country on Wednesday the 20th. So next Wednesday, that looks a cold day. But it's a cold day. It's cold air covering virtually the whole of the country. There would be certainly the risk of wintry showers in northern and eastern parts of the country with that. Then moving through to Thursday the 21st, high pressure sort of sits over the country, so it turns it largely settled, and it's still there as we go through to Friday the 22nd. We're probably starting to bring somewhat milder air around the top of the high pressure. So it certainly turns cold for a time next week, a proper cold snap. And then maybe the temperatures lift up a little bit later next week. Although there could be a lot of frost and fog underneath this area of high pressure. But it's a really, really complicated pattern for the models to pin down. Now there's the ECMWF for Saturday the 16th. Again, a high pressure reaching through the country. Again, we bring that cold front down across British Isles through Sunday the 17th and on into Monday the 18th. Cold front is coming southwards. So band of rain moves south, then cold air following behind. Notice again a lot more amplification of the ridge though in the Atlantic. I said we've got to really get that ridge further north. We're not getting it to Greenland, but we are getting it off the coast of Newfoundland. That's very nice amplification of the ridge, and the result is that the ECMWF is a colder run than the 6 o'clock GFS. So as we go through to Tuesday the 20th, and on into Wednesday, Tuesday the 19th, should say, on into Wednesday the 20th, we start to push down a proper northerly wind, follow the isobars back, and we're going right to the North Pole there, right off the top of the charts. That's really cold air starting to push south across the coast. Got low pressure, bringing a lot of heavy rain. With that cold air moving southwards, I think for Scotland, Northern Ireland and Northern England in particular, there would be a risk of seeing that rain turning to maybe quite significant snow, and not just over high ground as well. There's the -5 isotherm coming southwards. Again, it's not down across England and Wales because we're under below pressure. That's giving heavy rain, but certainly for Scotland and Northern Ireland, there's cold air digging in, and there is the potential there for some wintry weather. And then moving through to Thursday, the 21st, when again we've got a very nice northerly or northeasterly wind coming down across the country. Again, follow the isobars back, they're going right up to the North Pole. Really cold air digging in. The low pressure is sinking away in towards France, and the cold air is coming southwards as well. It doesn't really get into the southeast, that -5 isotherm, but much of the country is covered by the -5 isotherm as we go through into Thursday, the 21st of November. And even on today, Friday the 22nd, we've still got a very cold and strong northeasterly wind blowing there across England and Wales, whilst the high pressure is sinking down into Scotland and Northern Ireland. And again, the -5 isotherm covering much of the north, not particularly across central, southern, southeast parts of England and Wales, because we've got a wind off the North Sea by that time. But there's a lot more amplification in that ECMWF run this morning of the ridge of high pressure, and that's the key to really getting that cold air down. Next week we've got to send the ridge as far north as we can get it, and the result is that the winds on the western side of the high pressure, east side of high pressure, winds will bring the cold air down from the north. The GFS doesn't amplify the ridge as much, so that's why it's not such a cold run. But both those models are agreeing that at least there's going to be some sort of cold snap next week. So I think that's what we're going to be looking at for next week. There is going to be the risk of frost, certainly next week, on several nights. I think there'll also be a risk of at least wintry showers in the north. And if the ECMWF is right, I wouldn't be surprised to see some quite significant snow for Scotland and Northern England at some point next week. Probably not further south, but we've got to really wait and see how much we amplify that ridge, because if we amplify it even more than the ECMWF is showing, then the cold air will come even further southwards. So no evidence that we're setting up a prolonged sort of block sort of pattern over the North Pole yet. The Arctic Oscillation would have to be trending properly negative for us to be seeing blocks over the pole. But the Arctic Oscillation is easing off, which means the low pressures over the pole are easing off. It will allow some colder air to start to filter southwards. And as I say, that's all dependent on how much we amplify that ridge in the Atlantic. So a very difficult pattern to pin down. That's why I've rambled on for quite a long time for this video. It's hard to pin it down. You're going to have to wait and see and wait for models to firm up a little bit more, because it's a little way off still just yet. But certainly good evidence, I think, of good signs that we're going to have the first cold snap of the winter next week. Frost certainly, and maybe some snow in the north in particular as well. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. It's a 5-day forecast tomorrow, and this evening I'll do another Christmas update. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.